everyone, good afternoon. I'm Ashila,
And I'm Hilda.
and today we're going to talk about the legend of golden ratio.
Okay, so have you ever seen this symbol? And do you know what does it represent? Okay, so the symbol represents 1.618 and it's called the P or the golden ratio. A golden ratio is an irrational number with infinite decimal which usually amounts to 1.618. It is found by dividing a line by a ratio that produces 1.618 with the formula long part divided by short part equals to all parts divided by long parts.
Okay, so the golden ratio is also sometimes called the golden section, golden mean, golden number, divine proportion, divine section, and even golden proportion. But why do we call it golden? What is the beautiful in it?
Okay, so actually, uh, there is still a debate in terms of human perceptions of beauty and mathematics. If you draw a square around the face of Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, then the ratio of the height to the width of the square equals to the golden ratio. And another artist, Salvador Dali, is not directly related to the golden ratio. His work is also suspected of containing the golden ratio in the dimensions of the drawing. Dali also used a dodecahedron 12 sides platonic solid covering the dining table in Sacrament of the Last Supper believed to be related to the golden ratio.
Okay, so while the golden ratio is captured many people's many people's attention, generally in mathematics the properties are correctly stated, but much of what is represented about art, architecture, and literature and aesthetic is false or seriously misleading. So, what are the misconceptions in the golden ratio itself? And how the statement about golden ratio have achieved the status of common knowledge and are widely repeated.
So, the first myth of the misconception about golden ratio is a golden rectangle is the most aesthetically pleasing rectangle. Some artists and architects believe that the golden ratio makes the most pleasing and beautiful shape. It is often claimed that various works of art, architecture, and natural structures are based on the ratio P. These claims are backed up by diagrams or measurements illustrating the golden ratios present in the structure, such as those in figures 1 and 2. So the problem with this claim is that in any given structure, a great many different distance can be measured. And the reality of this myth is not most people say that the golden rectangle is most pleasing for them, and not fit all type of things. And as evidence, Devlin experimented with hundreds of students to select their favorite square. The result is the students choose randomly, and if the experiment is repeated, the result comes out the same. If it's true that the golden ratio is the key to aesthetics, then students should choose a square that is closer to the golden rectangle. This experiment shows the golden ratio is no more aesthetically pleasing to people. Research from the High School of Business at Berkeley also shows consumers prefer square with a ratio of 1.414 and 1.732. The intermediate ratio contains the golden ratio, but not always at that point.
So, is it not the only myth that we have? We also have the second myth that said that golden ratio has been used in architecture since antiquity. So it's like from prior to our days, the golden ratio has been also used. Now, we have to take a look at these three buildings. The Parthenon in Athens, it was built 5 before the century. The Great Pyramid Khufu in Egypt, which is built in 2500 before century, and the United Nations building in New York, which built in nowadays the 20th century. So people said that these buildings use fee in their architecture. But if we wanted to criticize it more, we can take a look at the Parthenon in Athens first. So as we can see in here, the Parthenons of Athens, it have the golden rectangle ratio in it. So how we can find it? It was through the length and the height. So the length and the height will present the golden rectangle. But if we want to criticize it more, if we've been critical, whether it is not restricted to to measure the rectangle, but why don't we use the roof the roof edges as the edge of the rectangle, and why don't we use the bottom edge as the edge rectangle? Why do people use the pillar edge as the edge of the rectangle? And the second thoughts would be, why would they choose the length over the height while didn't use the width itself? So if we want to know more, we have to wonder why he chose it. And why does he use only those parts but not the other parts?
Okay, so the conclusion. Well, it is true that P appears in many forms, from art to architecture and even nature. We still have mystery whether it is purposefully used or not.
And people claim that this golden ratio gives the most aesthetic proportion. But from what and to what extent, we also haven't really known it. At the end of the day, the findings of this golden ratio is still very eye-opening and interconnected. And yes, we want to know more.
And how about you?
Thank you.